you're going to daisy chain.
That'd be nice if more, because it might be visible.
You reckon I'm live now?
I think you could be.
Oh, right, okay. Hello everybody. We had a real panic tonight. We couldn't get into the system. The GoPro wouldn't attach to the internet, so we're very unprepared, and at the moment I can't see a screen, so I don't even know if you're there or if I'm talking to you.
You are there.
I am there, apparently.
And there's
yeah.
just the one person watching at the moment.
That's okay. So we're all right. Excellent.
No, 4 on there. So.
4. Hi. Ben is just setting me up so that I can kind of see what's going on. We were here, would you believe, 3/4 of an hour ago, setting up and getting everything ready, and we got live. We got the GoPro to work, I think, a minute and a half before 8 o'clock. So we're a bit fraught at the moment, but things are fine. So I'm going to do some printing tonight. I'm going to wait until a few people are here and everybody's happy, and then I'm going to do some printing with my registration device, but I want to do some woodblock. So I am just waiting till I can see the camera and I can read what's going on, and then we can get going. Right, okay. Hello everybody. Hi Denise, hi Simon, hi Polly, hi Claire. No Doris is in the house, she's in bed in the house, she might turn up later. But we have got the owls, you have to listen out for our owls, which are really noisy. We've got like these, I think somebody who was listening said that they were tawny owls, but they scream the place down every night now. So they're there. Hi to Wales. Hi Christine, hi Denise, hi Jenny. So, and Tina, hi from the Seattle ferry commuting, that is glamorous, hello. Hi. So, let me just tell you what I've been doing. We've actually been shooting photographs all day because I've been doing an article for Artists and Illustrators magazine about Western woodblock. So, as you know, if you follow me, I do Japanese style woodblock with watercolours and brushes and rice paste and all that kind of stuff. And they asked me if I could do an article, a sort of 12-step how to do a woodblock print. So that's what we've been doing all day. So I thought if I'm going to do that, then people will want the wood grain to show in their print, presumably, because that's kind of what people like. And also I've got to think of a way of working with wood and rollers and inks, which I've not done before. Hi to Norway, by the way. Yep, and Yasmin, sorry Maya, Yasmin says that hello from California and she loves owls, so listen out for our shouty tawny owls tonight. So having decided that I had to work that out, I fortunately had a whole load of these guys. So these are roof shingles, and I've done a bit of looking on the internet. I think I told someone that these were made of cedar. They're larch. We've worked out they're larch, and I bought these about a year ago because I wanted to do some wood grain in my Japanese woodblock class, and then of course absolutely no classes happened this year, so I had about 40 of these larch shingles waiting to be used, and I was looking at them and I was thinking they're kind of thin, they could probably fit in the reg device. So what we did was, instead of raising the grain by burning them, we actually raised the grain by using a wire brush, and just a wire brush on them. So I think, yes, here I have an example. I'll get my lovely assistant just to hold this up so you can see. Terry wants to know how my Lino book is coming along. I've sort of written the middle section of it, Terry. I've written the bit on how to design for Lino, how to draw for a print, how to think about breaking up the design into blocks, all that kind of thing. So that's like the middle section of the book, which is sort of sounds a bit about face. But that bit's written, and then the all the examples and variations need to be designed and printed and photographed at the end of the book, which is kind of showing all the processes. And then the beginning of the book's all about tools and things, and that's yet to be written. So to go back to this, we raised the grain using a wire brush. I didn't want to burn it because when it's that thin, if I burnt it, I was worried it would go all kind of wavy. And I kind of wanted it as flat as possible to fit in the registration device. So that's what I'm using, and I'm going to print shortly to show you. And that's giving the grain side of things. Hi from Malcolm in Ireland. Hi, hi. Haven't seen my brother yet, Mark and Denise. I don't know if you guys are there. So you can see also that we cut it down to fit in the reg device as well. And the other wood that I'm using for this enterprise is this really, really cheap Sheena plywood. And this is the sort of wood that I use for like teaching novice printers, and I get it from Great Art. It's called Asian Ply, and it's not a great quality product, but it's great in that it's soft and it's easy to cut if you're learning, and it's not so precious, so you can just sort of mess it up and try again. And I have already cut a block out of it to print tonight. You can see I've been playing with it. So I have already cut myself a block, and then oh, hi to Deborah in Utah, hi. But I'm having to do it all again for the purposes, for the magic of photo shoots, because the magazine article I'm writing about this, I need to have a sort of perfect unprinted one to show them the cutting bit, but I wanted to show you guys too, so I'm doing it twice. So that's what that's about. And while I think of it, last live stream, those of you who were here, I started making my sign. So I have made my sign. It needs a little bit of cleaning up and the black just tidying up, but I was really pleased with how it turned out. So this is the sign for my arts and craft fairs. Oh, hi Paula from Tasmania, and hi George from Seattle. So you can see how I've sort of cut all this texture. So that was just like massively boring little U-gouge cutting. But the way I've done this is with Sumi ink. So I got a very fine brush and I just really carefully took my time and inked these bits in. So when I've tidied this up a bit, I'm going to polyurethane the whole thing with varnish so that it's pretty white clean and it stays nice and clean, and we can use that for craft fairs and things because it's nice and lightweight. Yeah, I'm really pleased. Thank you, Yasmin. I was really pleased with it because I think it's really important to sort of say something about who you are and what you do at these fairs, and you don't have very much time to get that across to people. So anyway, hopefully that does. So back to this evening of printing. So what I'm going to be using is Hosho paper. This is stuff that comes in a pad. I think Intaglio in London sell it, and hand printed do definitely sell it, but they are out of stock at the moment, but they will have some in January, so watch this space. So that's paper I'm going to print on. Move those out of the way, and I am going to also, because of the way this is cut, I've got this little flock of birds here and my tree, so I've cut myself a mask, so you'll see when I come to ink up. Can't even pick it up. So when I come to ink up, I'm actually going to use this, and this is it's Mylar again, I think, but thicker stuff. The only reason it's thicker is just that I happen to have it and I'm using it up. Thin would work really well. You could do it with newsprint, you could just do it with a sheet of paper. but with this I'm just going to use it just so that I get rid of all this nonsense and I don't have to worry about it making the print dirty. So I'm going to be using that. And the ink that I'm using is it's oil based. It's just traditional oil based ink that I've got here, and this is Cranfield's blue black ink, which I really like. I don't know that it's very blue, but it's quite nice. I quite like it, and you can see I have rainbow rolled that into a kind of goth rainbow, ready for inking up. And I am going to use my beloved Durethene roller for this, and that's because it's so soft. And when I roll over the wood grain, it's actually really difficult to get the ink into all the uppy downy bits. And this soft roller will at least allow me, I'm going to push it in, I'm going to stand up and do this in a minute, and push it down into all the sort of softy bits of the wood. So I'm just going to have to stand up for that. So, sorry about the camera movement, we're just going to do this a little bit of an adjustment. There it is. We're all right. So this larch, these larch shingles, they weren't hideously expensive, were they? They weren't very...
I think they were about 60 quid for about 30 of them.
No, we've got more than that. It's about 40, I think we've got.
Well, I can't remember the exact price.
But
they
weren't
unspeakably expensive.
And of course you can use both sides. Most of them aren't as exciting as this one. This is a particularly good one, and it did have a knot which has fallen out, but I kind of like that it's fallen out. So I am going to ink it up. Oh, right, Doris fans, I can tell you that Doris is now in the room, so we're going to come and jump on the table. Oh, right. Deborah's asking, did I seal the wood? Did I varnish it? No, you see, I haven't with this one because I thought it would be really nice to keep it kind of raw. But I didn't varnish this one either. Probably because I don't know very much about Western woodblock. I haven't run any tests or anything to see the difference in, or whether it improves for being varnished, this sheen apply. So I'm using it unvarnished, but I can see how it might improve for a layer of or maybe PVA to stop the paint sinking in. I don't want a particularly clean, crisp colour. I'm quite happy for it to be quite tonal. Whereas I think if I wanted this to be pure black, then I would varnish. I would probably think about sealing either with PVA or varnish, and then I think there would be more chance of getting a black. But as I say, this is like my first foray into Western woodblock, so I'm no expert on the subject. Oh, hi Ginger, hi. Oh. Am I still on air? I can't see.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I'm on air. Right, okay. So, right, I'm just going to ink up. And I had a tester before, and I made the sky far too dark, so I'm just trying to make the sky a little paler. So this urethane roller, which I can do sort of squishing there, is really, really squishy, so I can actually push it down. One thing about sealing the wood, I guess if you seal it, you would get rid of all the nasty crumbs of wood, and I have brushed these really, really thoroughly, but I'm still getting little bits and bobs, so I'm guessing that sealing it would also take care of that. So what I ought to do is seal up a piece and see how that works. But in the article in the magazine that I'm doing all this for, I've got 12 pictures and 100 words per picture in which to explain the entire process and how it works. So, you know, it's kind of very short and sweet. So I'm putting a fair amount of ink on here. Just taking my time and inking up my pencils as I go. Oh, your prints and cards have arrived. Excellent. Well, as I said in the note, I was having a sort of cheeky look at where you live, and it does look really, really nice. Okay, let's just put that out of the way. So I have got a Reg device that I'm going to print this on in a sec, but I wanted to show you, if you were using one of these and your wood was thicker, then I would suggest that what you need to do is get some double-sided sellotape and just raise up the level of the frame. We've made a kind of foam ball job here, and I'd just stick that on. You'd need to make sure that this was really firmly stuck on, because you don't want it like moving and losing you your registration. But that would raise the paper up if you had a sort of chunky piece of wood in there. So that's a kind of Blue Peter improvisation that we've done there. So I can't believe how organised I am. Apart from the fact we can get the camera to work, we're actually reasonably well organised tonight. So this is the Hosho paper, and that comes with a sort of smooth side and a slightly textured side. And I'm just going to move that over there, out of the way. Let me make sure I get this the right way round, because I'm kind of half watching myself in the camera, which is a bit disconcerting. So you can see it doesn't exactly fit the device, so I've made myself a little spacer just to slide in there, just to hold everything tight, so it's a bit of a squeeze. So a bit like furniture in an old-fashioned printing press. So now everything's good and solid. And I did a load of experiments earlier about things that took the impression, and actually I found I don't normally use a wooden spoon for printing, but I found with this particular print wooden spoon is best. So feel free to ask questions if you have any while I do some slow printing here, because it's worth really taking your time with this just to get a good impression, because I really want to push. And don't be afraid of using your hand as well. You know, sometimes I do that when I'm printing wood grain. Oh, Kerry likes my Christmas jumper. I like my Christmas jumper as well. I got it years ago, and it's lovely. It's proper wool, and it's ever so warm. So, and I thought this would be the last live stream before Christmas, I think. Because we did sort of promise that we'd take some time to do. I won't say time off.
I think we might miss Boxing Day. I think.
Yeah, I think we probably this is the last one before Christmas, so it's kind of appropriate, I guess. So you can see, the other thing I like about this Hosho is it's nice and strong, but I can see what I'm doing. Like here, I've got the knot hole where the moon is, if you like, and it's so easy to tear the paper when you've got stuff like that. You really need to be able to see kind of where you are.
Oh so no, actually. Christmas Day is on a Friday.
Christmas Day,
in a fortnight,
yeah. No, well,
so.
I sincerely hope that none of you would want to come and watch me doing printmaking on Christmas Day. So, Deborah wants to know how long I would let this first layer dry. Well, for tonight, not at all. But if I were printing this for an edition, then I would have put dryers in the ink. So I would have put my trusty wax dryer, so this stuff, which is, it's just a sort of, I like it because unlike the liquid dryers, it's a sort of solid thing, so it doesn't dilute the ink at all. So I would put that in at about 4% to the, and you can do this with safe wash ink, oil-based safe wash ink, as well as traditional oil-based ink. And at about 4%, this layer would be dry the next day, pretty much. So it really speeds things up. The other tip, which I'm sure I said before, but just to repeat, is that if you leave stuff hanging up overnight to dry, if you can possibly have an air current of some sort, so a fan or a heater or minimal or anything that will get the air moving around the prints, makes a huge difference to how they dry. Even if the place stays cold, it's actually the movement of the air that really helps with the drying. So these days I have a radiator and it has a kind of sleep function, and I leave it on its sleep function where it doesn't do any heating as such, but it keeps the air moving around, and that really helps. See where we're going with this. So sneaky peek, it's coming on, and I'm just going to keep working my way down to the bottom. So this wooden spoon is perfect because I can get like real spot pressure. In fact, you can see the spot pressure. There, hopefully. So I can get spot pressure and it's not damaging the print. So George wants to know, have I ever tried a glass Baron for hand printing? No, I haven't, and I keep meaning to get one to try because I've heard good things about them. There is a chap that makes them that we were having a look at. He got in touch on Instagram, and I've been meaning to buy one of his Barons and try it.
But I actually don't think it would work very well for this,
no, it wouldn't
because
work
it's
for
too
this.
flat.
When you do this sort of work, this is ideal because it's got a little bit of a curve to it and it's a small area, and this wood is really quite sort of up and down. So if I were doing Japanese woodblock and I was printing this, the paper would be damp and it would all be sort of flopping into place, and it would be much easier. Okay, so a little look at that. Just want a couple of areas.
Oh, we're buffering a bit.
Oh, are we buffering?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hi Jenny from Australia. Good morning.
Hope not.
Are we back in the game?
Yeah, we are.
Excellent. So Terry wants to know if the paper's dry. No, this is dry paper, traditional oil-based ink. This is just as though I were doing a lino cut. It's woodblock. So if I were to show you where we are, so you can see now I've got this rather nice background. Get my lovely assistant to hold it up for me. And one of the things you can see here, if you raise the grain with a wire brush, it doesn't all, it varies what will work with it. This larch is really soft. So these larch shingles are really soft, and when you raise the grain by scraping away at them with a wire brush, it makes these really lovely little striations in it. So it gives you kind of texture as well. If I didn't want any texture, then, and I had a thicker piece of wood, I would burn it and I would use a softer wire brush, because the combination of burning and then using a softer wire brush will take all the softwood out without making these little cut marks into it. But actually I quite like them, so that's kind of cool, so I'm happy with that. So the next thing I want to do is to get this one done. So I need to ink this one up. And like I say, this is like the first time I've ever done this. So yeah, I don't know why I do this. Other people, I think other YouTubers are kind of more prepared than me, but I kind of like the jeopardy of doing things at the last minute. So here you can see this, it's mucky. I've wiped it down, but I haven't tried cleaning it much, so it's kind of had a wipe down, but it's just needs a bit of ink on it. And so this roller is still soft. It's a Japanese rubber roller. That's its twin. But it's not as soft as the Durafine. And this time I don't want it to go down into all the bits, so I'm not going to apply pressure to it while I'm inking up. So. And also, I kind of want the birds dark.
So, question there that
read it to me.
it says it's from Saraswati CHE. Thanks so much for sharing. I just lino printed my wedding invites.
Yay!
I was wondering. I sometimes had ink in the detailed lines, and other times I had a kind of tiny dotted structure of ink. Any hints?
Right, okay, when I have printed this, I will dig out the really, really fine lino block that I cut, and I will show you printing a really fine lino block. So just 1 second while I do this, and we'll look at printing really fine stuff. So I've got that inked up, I think, pretty much. And now I just need to put my mylar. So I have like a folder with about 1 million pieces of mylar cut into these weird esoteric shapes, and I just reuse it as and when. So let's just get that into position. Ben, while we're doing this, would you mind digging out, it's over there, the very fine stems of plants that I did for the light study print? Woo. Let's just get this stuck into place. Propped up. So if I were doing this as an addition, what I would do is I would use these bits of masking tape as a hinge, and I'd fold the mylar out of the way and ink up and flop it down again. Yeah, this one. I'll show you how to print this one afterwards, so we can see fine printing. Okay.
Though you won't get the kind of orange peely effect on any of that, which is the other thing.
The orange
that's
peely
just
effect,
too much.
right, okay.
Ink,
So we'll do fine printing, and then we'll have a think about the orange peely effect. Actually, I'll put that in there, and I haven't put the print back. That was a bit stupid. Let's just get that back in position. So I'm just going to line up my piece of paper again. So there we go. Back in business. Okay, so this time my mum's wooden spoon is going to be good for bits, but it's not going to be so good for those birds because the birds are little details, and if I go over them with my spoon, that's going to push the paper down around and in between them. So again, I looked at my proper Japanese printing barons, which are lovely things, but they're 13-inch. They're wide, they're bigger. Centimetres, 13-inch. No, that would be huge, wouldn't it?
Be like a frisbee.
It would be like a frisbee. No, they're 13 centimetres. So this really, really cheap little baron is actually perfect for this job. So this is like, I don't know, £3 or something, these barons. Have I frozen because I can't see that? So I'm just working my way around. Of course, you don't have to use wood for the second block. You could combine wood block and lino like this to print with, if you wanted. So at the moment, I'm just focusing on getting the birds in. Okay, so just working on them for the moment. Okay, so now I've got the little flock of rooks going home to nest in. I'm going to go over to using a wooden spoon. Oh, and I might just use it actually to put the horizon line in as well. So I'm varying the tools that I'm using a little bit. Just a little bit to that corner. That's it. So I don't always use the same thing for inking up or for putting pressure on a print. It's very much what works with that print and that paper and the way that I've cut it. So, you know, sometimes the sort of crappy cheap stuff is exactly what you need for the job, which is not to be rude to whoever made those barons. They are great and I use them to teach with sometimes. Right, somebody asking, do I ever use shinkolle? No, I know nothing about shinkolle, and it's always seemed to me like a sort of very mysterious process that I know nothing about. I would have to go off and do a class, I think, because I don't know anything about that. I look at them and I marvel at how they're done, but I haven't the faintest idea how it works. Right, how are we doing? Good, I think we are about there with that one. Okay, yes, I think we'll call that a day. Put that out of the way. I'm sorry, Simon, you're seeing your Christmas card here. So my brother-in-law is watching and I'm afraid the family have to put up with prints every year. So I will get Ben to show you what that looks like. Right, so you can see how... Oh, right, okay. So you can see how soft those trees are. If you did it in lino, I think you would get a bolder, crisper effect. But I kind of like that for this particular image, and I'm quite happy with how the birds came out. I'll be interested when I cut... oh, I think Polly, they get bored of it. They probably open it and think, oh God, another print, you know. None of them very impressed. It's like when I used to make quilts. I used to make like picture quilts, like American style picture quilts, and you know, I sewed them for all the family, and you could tell after a while that they were all like, yeah, well, we've got one of those, thanks very much. So yeah, so I'm recutting, as I said at the beginning, and I think this will be a better version. So now my brother-in-law is pretending he's going to frame it and put it on the wall. I don't believe you. So,
Or maybe he's going to ask his brother if he'll frame it for him.
absolutely. I'll believe it when it goes up, Simon. So this one I'm cutting is going to be less blocky. I'm using a V tool to cut it, so it's much scratchier because I want this one to look rougher for the magazine article I'm doing. So I'm going to have another go with this block and see how that goes. So, so Matthew says his family are about to suffer their first Christmas since I took up Lino. Well, top tip, Matthew, is to put, when you send them your print, do tell them that this is a print you've made, because people don't realise that, and it's like they're always amazed when that happens. But if you don't tell them, they just assume that it's just another person's card. So yeah, do tell them that you made it. So if I move that out of the way and we go on to this one. So we're talking about orange peel effect printing and also printing something really fine. So if I show you guys, I'm going to get Ben to hold this close to the camera so you can see how deep that is. It's fairly deep. I'm going to grab some different paper while you have a look at that. So just bear with me while I find some other paper. So I was sent, that's going to fit over it, yeah. I was sent some really, really lovely samples by Washi Arts, and I cannot off the top of my head remember if they're in Canada or America, but they sell beautiful washi paper, and I'll print it on that. I think I'll have to print it without the register device still because it's so small. And what they do, which I thought was really, really nice, is when they sell books from their shop, they send out a sample pack of paper with each book, so which I think is really lovely. So what I'm going to do is ink up. So we're on to lino here, completely different from inking up the wood, which is absorbent. The lino isn't. So what I might do is go back to my big roller. I feel like one of those ladies that used to cook. Do you remember the Ideal Home exhibition at Earl's Court? They always had people doing...
George Ledyard says they're in Bellingham, WA, Washington State.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. So, really lovely paper, I have to say. Okay, so I have gone back to great big roller, and the reason I've chosen the big roller is it's going to make it easier to go across and make sure everything is inked up, because if you have a little roller, then it's easy to sort of it's not as easy to get a consistent layer. So if I have a fine print like this, I'll always try and do it with a big roller rather than the little one. Ideally I should be going that way, so I think I will go that way anyway. So my rainbow roller's the wrong way up.
Almost Canada.
Almost Canada, so I was kind of...
You weren't far off.
Okay, so I haven't got much ink on there. It's quite a fine layer of ink. So it's not, it's a nice thin layer of ink. Okay, I'm just going to give that a roll up there. Okay. And inevitably you're going to get ink coming off there, so either you can go down the route of putting a mask on it, or I'm just going to rub it off here. Now ideally I'd put this through the press, which would make a much less hair raising job for me, but I'm going to try and do it by hand. just, let's go.
Claire's got an interesting question about
Okay, go
using
for
a
it.
barren. Would you use a bamboo barren over a plastic one? Currently waiting to test the press, but can't get it until March, and using a wooden spoon. Wonder if a cheaper barren in the meantime would be better.
Well, I have to say, the plastic barrens, the black plastic barrens that I have got here. Is this for lino cut? This is for lino
I believe
printing?
so, yes.
Yeah, okay. So these barrens, I got these to teach lino cut with because I used to use these, which are quite nice, but they wore out really, really fast. They are really cheap, admittedly. So I got those as a replacement, and I wanted to hate them, and actually they're pretty good. So if you want a kind of cheap stand-in, then these ones aren't bad. So I will show you.
Kevin Mears is asking if the ink has any extender in it. I assume it doesn't.
No, not this time. This ink has no. It's just ink. Yeah, yeah. If I were doing fine inking like this and I wanted a really transparent colour, then I would never add extender to print something this fine. I would always do it by just having a really, really thin layer of ink. We made a film about that, but it's not come out yet. It'll be out. Do you know when the printing the pink sky is coming out?
Not off the top of my head.
So let's see how we do it. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I would just roll out the ink until it was transparent.
Do you know what brand name those are?
They are Woody. So where did I buy those? I bought those in Japan. That's not helpful, is it? I think Intaglio sell them. I think Hand Printed in the UK sell them. Or they sell a version anyway. Okay, let's have a little look and see how we're doing. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so thin layer of ink. Take your time. I think one of the things that I notice when I'm teaching students is that they do tend to kind of rush at inking up, and then they rush at taking the impression. And you know, I'm sure you guys don't need to know that, but it's just slow everything down, and you'll get a much better result. I think people worry that the ink will dry, and with oil-based ink there's absolutely no chance of that. With water-based ink you can add a drying retarder to it. They make a drying retarder. Okay, so Cranfield make drying retarder for water-based ink. And if you use that, I use that at, I don't know, between 4% and $1 to the ink, and it makes water-based ink a little bit looser, but it will make all the difference in the world if you're in, you know, sometimes in the summer with water-based ink when you're rolling out, it can kind of almost dry as you're rolling it out, and this stuff will stop that happening, which is quite useful, especially when you're teaching. Okay, so let's see if I've done Linda's lovely paper justice. Okay, so that's very fine.
And I've just realised that the problem that Saraswati had is a solid block with fine detail cut out of it. Oh,
right. Okay, so it was kind of
just from reading her follow-up here.
Right. Oh, I see.
And
so
that's quite a different problem.
If you've cut fine, there is a sort of point where it's just too fine and the ink can't handle it. If you like cutting fine detail into blocks, then frankly oil-based ink is always going to be easier to handle, I think, when you're inking something like that up. And the other thing is that the ink needs to be thinner than you think. I think when you start out, you think, oh, you need a decent thick layer of ink, and actually it's better to have it finer, and then you won't get, and the orange peel effect that you're talking about, that's almost certainly too much ink, because it kind of goes all gloopy on the surface, especially with water-based ink. If you have too much ink, it can get a bit textured and gloopy. And also the other thing, as I say probably at every single live stream that I do, if you have a nice soft roller, that makes a big difference. You know, the softer the roller, the more sensitive it is, and the sort of better it behaves. So just like less ink, good roller, take your time, and with the fine detail, if you can use oil-based ink, it's a really good idea. I know that people worry about white spirit, but it's kind of a trade-off. And also the Safe Wash, the Caligo inks, they are oil-based, but they're much softer than this stuff. This stuff is really quite stiff, and it's difficult to roll out sometimes. It's especially in the winter time, if the plate is cold and it's a cold day, it's really, really hard work at first when you roll it out. But the more you roll it, the kind of more it loosens up and the better it gets. So, you know, you need to kind of take time rolling it, just physically rolling it out before you use it on the plate. Where are we? Yeah, it will be uploaded after the, we always we always put these on the channel. So we've got a question here. Don't you have to start on clean off the lino after so many prints? Start fresh. I do. I would clean with something like this. If I was printing this, to be honest, probably the amount of ink I was putting on it would be so minimal, it would take forever for it to build up. You know, I could get away with probably printing 20 or so. If you've got fine detail, hang on, detail cut into a block. Okay, so here I've got a block. It's not very fine detail, but you know, you can kind of see there is some detail cut into it. Again, it will build up over time, and you would have to wipe it, clean it out. So if I ink this one up, just to show you. So again, you can see I'm just going back to the plate, but I'm not picking up any more ink from up here. If I was printing on the wood, then I'd be picking up a lot more ink because the wood would be absorbing it, whereas this stuff isn't. So that's good. Okay, so I'm going to get Ben to turn this thing around because I'm going to do this on the press. It will just be easier to do this on the press. So just clear my press. So just get these bits off.
There's a mask in there at the moment, love.
It doesn't matter, does it?
Oh, well, that won't fit through the hole in the mask.
It'll be fine. No, it's all right. I think we're in business. Okay.
I thought you were talking about the little press.
No, we're going on the big boy press. Okay. Poor Ben, I don't think he was expecting us to have a little press printing. I'm just going to tack this into place because I don't want it to move about. Just put some paper. Where do the whole shape have? As always, I started the evening beautifully organised and it's all gone to hell now, so apologies for having to go up and find that. Okay, so I'm going to put a bit of pressure on that, and the way that I work is with these pieces of card. So I probably need more than I've got here. I think I've got 3 bits here. It's all right, I'll use the big one. I'll just bring, I don't want to move the... Right, let's see. Ooh. Set up for them. Yeah, you can see there's no pressure there really to speak of, so I'm going to go a little bit more. So with this, what I'm trying to do is to get the right pressure, because if you put too much pressure on it, it kind of squashes things too much. So I'd rather kind of feel my way. I don't normally print with that Hosho paper on here, so I'm not quite sure. You know, the papers that I know how many cards that, that's better. Okay, so I'm still moving that easily, but that's putting enough.
Claire says you're coming across as being very organised.
No, not really. I never quite know what's going to happen on live stream or what people want to see, so I'm not very well organised, because it's always a bit anarchic. So let's just have a check. Is that printed? Yeah, there we go. So you can see not very much ink to produce that.
You can sit down again.
Yeah. I'll let you hold that up and do the showing thing. Do you want to show them more? Right. So you can see with that it's cohesive, so it's filling in all the gaps and everything, but I'm not losing any of the nice little details in the brush and around here. And I kind of like this bleed. I think this is good. I think this is a good tattoo, maybe. So that's because I'm putting just enough pressure on it rather than too much. Because that's the other thing people think, is when they start out, they think you have to put a lot of pressure always to get a good print. It's like, oh, it's not printing very well, I need to press harder. And actually, a lot of the time is that you need not to press harder, you need to press less hard to get a good result. So if you're printing something like this one, then if I was doing that on the press, I would take out all the card and I would literally just be tapping down the weight on top of it. Sometimes I even get it in the press to get it in the right position and then just rub it by hand really gently because I want even less pressure on it. So that's really important. And the other thing is, as I say, is soft roller and really thin layer of ink to get a good result from it. And then it should work okay. But I'm quite excited by this whole business of printing with the woodblock with this kind of texture. So combining it, probably it would be quite nice combined with the lino. I think that would work really well. And of course, if you've got your registration organised, then you could start, if you were, let's say you were working on a reduction print and you wanted to have a woodblock in it, but you didn't want the woodblock just to be kind of a sky or a background, you wanted it actually to sort of appear in the print about halfway through the reduction process. What I would do is I would start the reduction print, and then when you got to the stage where you wanted the woodblock to appear, then you could offset print. So you'd print your lino print up, or you put your lino print in whatever registration method you had, and you'd ink it up, and you'd put a plastic sheet down, take the wet ink impression, and then take the lino out, put the woodblock in and put the wet sheet down again, and transfer all the information onto the woodblock, and then you could cut your woodblock to kind of come into the lino cut at the point you wanted. Right, okay, so yeah, there's, if you see the edges of the lino slightly embossed in the paper, is that a sign of too much pressure on the press? It can be, but some papers are really keen to emboss. Some papers are big fluffy soft papers which are lovely, but they will emboss. Sometimes if you're hand printing, it can just be that you've caught the edge of the frame, but I would say if you're worried about the embossing, back off the pressure and see how the print, see if you can still get a good print, and then that will get rid of the emboss. If you've got a problem when you print with like the cutaway area embossing or anything like that, sometimes you can stop that by just putting I put masking tape across it sometimes, just strips of masking tape, and it stops the hard edges embossing. But a lot of it could be to do with the paper. Okay. Right. I think that's... Gosh, are we at 9 o'clock already? That one went very fast. Good. I was worried that I would have to find something else to show you, but we are at time, so that's really cool. Yeah, so I hope that you've enjoyed that, and I'll be experimenting further with this, but I think that I really like the result this is giving, so that's something that I'll probably develop. So I'll probably try this method combined with lino. I'd quite like to try it in a reduction print. So yeah, thank you for watching, everybody, and have a really nice holidays or Christmas or whatever you are doing, whether you're doing it with family or on your own. And yeah, we're having a very quiet Christmas this year. Mr. B is going to make me a handbag, and I'm going to make Mr. B a waistcoat. And I'm also going to make my son a French workman's jacket thing, she says boldly. So I have to sort of go back to making hand-sewn buttonholes, which I haven't for years. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing over Christmas. Yeah, happy Christmas, George and Sylvia and Claire. And we will see you on the other side.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.